Okay, so I thought I would do a small tutorial here just on setting up the system just from a blank scene. I got nothing here loaded, just me playing with stuff obviously, but it's just the asset that's loaded in. And if I create a terrain and then I go into my tools up there, broken tools, area, master, I'm going to create a master. I'm going to create a player. We'll just use a capsule and we're going to put him same level as the terrain, and we're going to give him a tag of player. Doesn't have to be player, it can be anything you want. So we're going to go over to the spawn master and we can see we have tabs. So you can hit show range gizmos, right, and nothing's going to show up other than actually at the spawn master itself. But if you go into the info tab, you can drag your player in and put him here, that's fine, but you can also select a tag and leave it like that, and that's fine. When it starts, it'll find the player on his own, or you can hit find player now and it moves over to our player. Our player does that. You can adjust the ranges where you don't want things spawning in, where you want things to spawn into, and this one actually has a couple different functions, I guess. Depending on how you have it set up, whether you're using pooling and AI functions, when the AI hit this range, they can be destroyed, or they'll call a method on the AI. I'll get to that later. Beyond that, if they get beyond this range, they get destroyed or pooled. So just for demo, I'm going to put this down really low. Put that lower. We'll give this an AI to spawn. I won't bother with the nighttime, but you can do nighttime as well, daytime. We're just going to do one, and I think I have a prefab here. We're going to put this guy, and he's just a cube. There is nothing to him, or no, he's a capsule, sorry. He has the AI functions. You can put this on your guys. You don't have to. The system wants it, so if you don't put it on, it will put it on for you. But ultimately, if you use AI functions, you can, when an AI is spawned, it'll call this method. So you have a unit event here, so it'll call into whatever you want. On the despawn, if you use AI functions, when they get into this red, it'll call this method. And then even with pooling and stuff, if they go, or not with pooling, when they're using this function, so they'll call that method in here. If they go beyond this, outside of the red, it'll get rid of them. Whether that's pooled or destroyed is entirely how you set it. But anyways, yeah, so we just have a capsule. We're going to give him 100% chance to spawn. If you put 10 AI in here and you throw them all 10%, with the way the logic runs, it gives them all a 10% chance to spawn. Yeah, there's other methods that don't do that. So you can use texture spawning. I can turn that on, and I'll show that in a minute, so we'll turn it off. These are those AI functions, if I want to use them or not, and if I want to use pooling or not. So if I say don't use pooling, okay, I can also see I need a nav mesh. So let's bake. We have to save. We're just going to stick this here and call this demo. Alright, there we go. So we have a nav mesh, nothing fancy. All systems look good. Okay, let's hit play. And there we have a whole pile of things spawning. And if I drag the player around, you can see things are getting destroyed and instantiated. Now if I go into the spawn master and I go back into those AI and I say I want to use pooling, it will call that method on them, but it also pools them. As you can see in the project here, they are pooling. They are deactivating and activating. If it wants an AI and there isn't one in the pool, it will instantiate it. But if there is one and it's deactivated, it will use that for a pool. Okay, so now if I go to the spawn master again, let's say we're going to use 2, and we're going to use this guy. We'll give him a 50% chance and him a 50% chance. Now we hit play again. We can see it is spawning them roughly 50% chance for each. Okay, so now let's paint a texture. What did I just do there? Look at me just hitting buttons all crazy. So we want to add a layer, and I have 2 layers here. Let's use my realistic grass. There we go, it's green. And then let's add another layer. We'll use my precision accurate dirt, and it's brown. So now if I go like that, we're just going to draw some stuff like that. I go back into the spawn master. Now I can say you and you both use textures. Okay, so let's go into, let's find that texture. We're going to drag that texture. He gets grass, he gets dirt. And now if we hit play, you can see it is now being selective. And they are still pooling, but they are pooling on the proper textures, as you can see. Right now, if you want a third guy, and maybe with this guy, we're not going to use textures. So now we have 3. We have 2 that are using textures, and 1 that is not using textures. And as you can see, that's the one that's not using textures. This guy's using a texture, not using texture. Right? If I come over here, using texture, or using texture, not using texture, it's the same guy, right? And everything's still in that pooling. Right? And if I want to go over, maybe I don't want this guy pooled, right? I can turn that on, and now they're doing their thing, and 2 sets of them will pool, and that the darker ones, the ones that aren't using textures, aren't pooling. And it's literally that easy to set up. Now, that's obviously not all the features. Like I said, they're population lists. Unity terrain. I have a Unity terrain. If you don't want to use a Unity terrain, you can put down a plane or whatever mesh you want. Just turn that off. You won't be able to use the texture spawning rules, but it'll spawn just fine. It only needs the nav mesh. So now let's go over to, we have 3 AI. You have day and night. I'm not going to show the day and night because I have to set up a method, but you literally just call a method into here, day or night. That's it. I guess I can make a button for it, but I'm not going to worry with that at this point in time. But let's go back up here and go spawn area. I could take this area and let's make him much bigger. Now let's go really big. Let's go stupid big. Oh, not that stupid big. Right, and you can adjust his alpha, right? So you can always see them. They're persistent as well. So if I unclick, you can still see it. You can still click on it even. But it has its own day or night list. So I can go, let's do a sphere with 100%. And same thing if you want to use textures. Oh, let's give this guy a 2 to 10 for range. Now if I hit play, as you can see, if we get down in here, there's those spheres. They're spawning in the square because that's what I set up, right? And they are also pooling. You can set up as many of these as you want. They can all be different. They can use daytime, nighttime, doesn't matter. They can actually be completely empty if you want. Even, and if you go real big, and it's literally acting now more as a blocker for blocking anything you don't want spawned in that area. And that's because there's nothing there. But beyond, and if you want to make, like I said, if you want to make 1 million of those, and each of those have a list 50 units long, fly at her. It's fine. It's not going to hurt nothing. But that is the basics of how we get this thing running. As you can see, I needed a terrain, or you can use a mesh. You have to have this tag selected that matches your player. It said you can drag the capsule in. You don't have to, but you can. And it has to have a nav mesh. After that, it will spawn and it will just work just like that.